So I want to take a moment to talk to you a little bit about scroll areas. Now, a scroll area allows us to represent multiple rows of data within a page. Now, if we just create a brand new page, so new page, we have what we call level 0. And we can add fields, but all we see is one row. At level 0, you will always only ever see one row. So if we want to see multiple rows, we need to use some sort of a multi-row control. We did that earlier with the grid. But now I want to introduce you to the scroll area. So the scroll area is similar to a grid, but whereas a grid is a series of rows and columns, this is just a series of rows. And what you and I do in a scroll area is generate what one row of data should look like. So actually, let's do the same thing like we did with the grids, but let's do the same thing with a scroll area. So I'm going to put employee ID in here, and I'm going to insert the name right beside that. So we'll do the exact same thing we did before, which is the display control field and then the related field. And so let's see, this will be personal data and name. And for label, we'll say none because we're following actually the same pattern we did for requester. Think of this more like a form rather than a grid. And on the use, we'll do related field related to employee ID. Now we need to make sure that on the order tab that name comes after employee ID. Now I want you to see here, it says the occurs number, the occurs level. Same thing as for a grid. We have an occurs level and an occurs count. How many rows do you want to see? How many rows do you want to see, or do you want to see all rows? Occurs level. Now occurs level by default, it's always going to be 1. So if I were to insert, for example, another scroll area in here for another child record, I want you to see it's going to set the occurs level to 1. So if you are creating a multi-level solution, a hierarchical solution, you would need to come in here and change that to 2. And then if we wanted to, we could put a grid inside that to further. So we'd have level 0, 1, 2, and 3. And this grid, again, defaults to level 1. So we need to identify, hey, this is level 3. And on the order tab, you can see all of those level 1, level 2, and 3. That's fantastic. So I'll delete this because it doesn't represent the data that we're reviewing. Oh, size is an issue. Again, we see. So let's go with custom size and resize this. Move these fields around so that, so they make sense. We have the same properties or similar properties. So label, change this to members instead of scroll area, which is not very descriptive. Oh, we see a lot of the same items, show row headers, columns. And then I would maybe, perhaps in this case, I think I'd go with unlimited occurs. And one of the things that we saw was the label. We saw where it's the first occurs only. So if we did something like this, and let's actually do top left. Excuse me. Label, position top left. There we go. So what this would do is if you had multiple rows, this would only show the column heading above, only show the heading above the first one, and then each one below that. So it actually kind of behaves like a grid, but gives you a lot more flexibility as well as allowing you to have child rows inside. So scroll areas, you'll see them used all over the place in Classic. In fact, let me just show you some examples. So do you know where I'm going? You do, don't you? We've been here before. I told you there's one page in HR that will show you an example of just about everything you want to see. There it is. Job data. This is a scroll area. It's used for effective dating. In fact, I would say the most common use case for scroll areas is the effective dated scroll. Now, the effective dated scroll, that right here, we see level 0. Now, our child record here, our level 1 record, it's the same, but with one additional key field. Up here, this is a view reading from the exact same record. But the view is showing level 0, and level 1 shows the exact same key structure plus at least one additional key field, which happens to be effective date. In this case, at least one, meaning there are 2 effective sequence. So this is Classic, and we see scroll areas all over the place in Classic. What about Fluid? No. You almost never see a scroll area used in Fluid. So we're covering the scroll area here for completeness because you may still be creating Classic solutions. Oracle has said their strategic direction is Fluid. So everything Oracle creates from here on out is Fluid. But to date, easily 90% of the application is still Classic. So what does that mean? You might still create Classic solutions. I mean, here's the thing. Of the Classic and Fluid, if you were to divide up Classic versus Fluid, you'd find Fluid is primarily self-service and Classic is primarily back office. In fact, I would say that all of the employee self-service, student self-service, manager self-service experience, it's all Fluid. So if you're creating solutions for manager, employee, or student, you're going to create Fluid solutions. But the remainder of the application is Classic and back office. So if you're creating solutions for your back office users, would you create Classic or Fluid? Well, if you were to create Fluid, your Fluid solution might be the only back office solution, Fluid solution they're using. That would seem awkward, wouldn't it? So you might still be creating Classic solutions. So I want you to see the scroll area. I want you to know it exists, and I want you to know how to use it. Basically, exactly the same as a grid. It's just a form. Okay, let's look at, see, as Oracle converts from Classic to Fluid, they're recreating the Classic components as Fluid. So let's look at, let's see, I think it's under Workforce Administration, and we'll click on Manage Human Resources, Manage Job. And what we're going to see here is the Fluid complement. It's the exact same component, exact same purpose as the Classic Manage Job or the Classic Job Data. This is the Fluid version. So let's look for the same person. And what I want you to see is there are no scroll areas. It's all grids. This is a grid. Select an effective dated row. And it drills us into a page with no scroll areas. It's all grids. Grids and visible data. Let's return back to Job Action Summary. And let's see, if we go back one more, we can include history. And so we see the multiple history rows, so we can drill in. So again, rather than using an effective dated scroll with, say, level 2, level 3, etc., most Fluid solutions are only 2 levels, level 0 and a level 1 grid. Interesting. So now I want to give you some time to read through the notes accompanying this lesson. And when you're ready to move on, I'll see you in the next one.